So yeah, thank you for Paul for joining us this afternoon to talk about a Scholastic Talk About Series, which are valuable in terms of language learning and accessing curriculum learning in Ontario schools. So I'll let you go ahead, Paul, and thank you again for your time.
Yeah, thanks. So yeah, I'm Paul Ronan from Scholastic Education. I'm just going to turn my camera off here. And a big thank you to ERGO for facilitating this session, and also to you all for sort of attending at the end of what I'm sure is a long day. We're very grateful for everything that teachers are doing this year in particular, but always. I know that, you know, you've probably spent a day behind a screen or behind layers of PPE. So I'm going to keep this short. We're just going to do a short exploration of the Talk About resource. I'm going to give you a brief overview of this resource for grades 1 to 8 and highlight some of the features. So I'm going to flip between my PowerPoint, and then I have some actual books that I will show you guys as well. The Talk About series introduces students to English vocabulary and everyday English language patterns and structures through talking about a topic, reading about the topic, and then writing about the topic. Talk About supports English language learners to begin using their second language to access the curriculum, simultaneously developing their English language and curriculum knowledge, not learning vocabulary in an isolation. These texts provide a useful road into the curriculum. Talk About as we consider sort of everyday English language versus academic, the low-level Talk About texts have personal and familiar topics and the basic high-frequency words of everyday English. And as you graduate to the higher levels of Talk About, they have more academic language. The Talk About series specifically connects to Ontario grades 1 to 3 social studies and grades 4 to 6 science, and is a wonderful support, supporting students who may have had gaps in their learning. The Talk About series has 96 titles in 4 topics, so 24 books per topic. Everyday Things are our step 1 titles, and these we have formal correlations to step on our website. Things Around Me and the Natural World are step 2 titles, and then the highest reading level is the step 3 Science in My World. So let's just highlight some of the features that you will find in these nonfiction texts. So lots of rich visual supports, like labels and captions, simple short texts, patterned sentences, large font, and the text is not dense. At the beginning of every book, a glossary of important content vocabulary. And as I said, the language learning is integrated with the academic content. I like that the important vocabulary is recycled throughout each book. At the back of every book is a really nice visual literacy piece. So graphs, charts, maps, Venn diagrams. And again, it provides an opportunity for English language learners to talk, read, and write about a topic. And these books are very culturally and ethnically inclusive. And I think you'll see that as you kind of have a peek at some of the books. So research suggests that learning vocabulary through related concepts assists learning and improves comprehension. Each title of Talk About has 4 key concepts. So for example, the step 1 book, Signs Around Me, the 4 concepts are, there are many signs in the environment. Some signs have writing, some have pictures, some have both. Signs tell people what they can and cannot do. And some signs are the same all over the world. So those are the 4 concepts from this particular book. So we're going to have a look at one title from each step. So My Family is the step 1 book we're going to look at. Dance Groups is the step 2 book. And Habitats is the step 3 book that we're going to look at. And the step 1 books, you can see that the topics are personal and familiar. So things in my school, things in my home, things in my community or my neighborhood. So we're going to have a quick peek at the step 1 book. There we go. So the digital versions of these books don't exist yet. So these are what we call spreads of the book. So as you can imagine, this is the front cover of the book and the back cover of the book. So you're gonna have to use a little bit of imagination as we flip through this book digitally. At the beginning of the book, we always give you a word count, the theme words in this particular book, the oral written sentence pattern. So in this case, the sentence pattern is, this is my and were. The visual literacy element that's there, and then what are the high frequency words. So My Family, it always starts with a glossary and a visual glossary as well as a written. The glossary of important content vocabulary that the students will meet as they read the book. And this important vocabulary is repeated throughout the book. So as we look at the text, you'll notice that it's, as a step 1, it's simple, predictable layout, single words or short pattern sentences, and very sort of clear and clean visuals. So they're not complex visually. Lots of labels, simple visual literacy elements as well. As you get to the back of every book, we have a visual literacy piece. In this case, it's a family tree. And they're included specifically to teach the function of a particular element. So these visual literacy elements include maps, graphs, charts, tables, plans, scales, diagrams, fact files. There's a huge amount of different elements, visual elements. And then the step 1 books end with extra vocabulary on this particular topic. So I'll just flip back to PowerPoint. So those are the step 1 books, and we'll have a peek at the step 2 titles. So we have 2 different series of step 2 titles, Things Around Me. So again, common everyday topics, fitness in the park, art in my town, where does popcorn come from? Those are some of the titles in the Things Around Me series. And then we have a new science series at a step 2, which is called The Natural World. And I particularly like the health titles. I think they're great and they tie in nicely with curriculum as well. So we're going to have a quick peek at what a step 2 title looks like. So here is the step 2 title that we're looking at. It's called Dance Groups. And here, again, word count, the key concepts in this particular text, main content vocabulary, extra content vocab, your sentence patterns. And I didn't mention this in the first, the step 1 books, but I do want to mention it. I like that we use more sort of informal oral versions of vocabulary where it's appropriate. So for example, we would use I'm rather than I am. And I really like that, that piece in the step 1 books and in all the books. So the dance groups. So here again, the text we start with the content vocabulary in the glossary. You can see that the vocabulary is getting a little more complex. And in the spreads of the book, it's still simple, easy to follow layout, maybe 2 or 4 sentences per page. And here again, the language, lots of high frequency words and phrases, simple and compound sentences. I also like in the step 2 books that some words, we use some words that have multiple meanings. So for example, they pitch their tent. So there's some pieces like that. At the end of the step 2 books, and I'm just going to flip forward a little bit here kind of quickly. So in this case, we have a table as the visual element. And then we have extra vocabulary in a visual format as well. And then we, for the step 2 books, we have focusing specifically on critical thinking and the concept, again, in this, the concepts of dance groups. So that's what a step 2 book looks like. And then I will flip back to my PowerPoint and show you the step 3 books. So here are the step 3 books. They're all sciences. And again, these tie in beautifully with grades 4, 5, 6, and 7, 8. There is some 7, 8 curriculum in here as well. Sort of junior and beyond. So I'm going to just quickly flip over to the step 3 book. And here we go. So the step 3 book we're going to look at is called Habitats. And here the academic vocabulary, again, the vocabulary gets much more complex, and it's academic vocabulary, so really helping students access your curriculum. And here you'll notice as well that the text and the layout gets much more complex rather than the step 1 and step 2 books. So again, lots of text features like charts, maps, and text boxes. There's about 1 paragraph per page. Common formats of adapted text, such as lists and instructions. And so, you know, the little key piece down here in this particular book. Lots of familiar and subject-specific topics, that's for sure. So ecosystems, levers, the moon, and minerals, and food chains. Lots of academic words are in these texts as well. A variety of simple and compound sentences. As we move through this book towards the end, I'll just flip forward. The visual literacy pieces here, so you get a relationship chart and a tree diagram. Those are the 2 visual literacy pieces. And then the last page is the 4 different science concepts that are in this particular book. So that's what a step 1, 2, and 3 book looks like. And I'll just flip back to my PowerPoint. So another piece that we have that is available for free, you don't even have to buy the product, it's just free on our website. We do online consolidating BLMs. So each title has 3 Blackline masters, sort of, consolidating the vocabulary and the learning. And I'm actually going to show you what they look like. Here we go. So this is the website, and I'm actually going to post it in the chat right now. I'm hopefully successful at this. Here we go. Chat. There we go. So you can click on that and you'll have access to this website. There's no passwords. Essentially, again, your step 1 through 4 titles, and for each title, there are 3 BLMs to consolidate the learning. There's also this really good overview guide, and the overview guide, it provides a lot of the same information that I'm giving you here today, but it also has sample lesson plans at each step level, at each reading level for each series, and it just shows you how rich these texts are, and it will, hope maybe give you some ideas of what you can do with your students. The individual BLMs, again, they're 3 pages long. You can print them off, you can save them, you can photocopy them. And if you're in a digital classroom, I like that you can type on them. So they are fillable PDFs. And again, it's consolidating your learning of the vocabulary and the curriculum that you're looking at. So those are the different features of what is online. And I'll go back to my PowerPoint. So we'll talk about pricing very quickly. You can buy them 2 different ways. You can buy them in 4 packs, thinking about small group work. You can buy them by topic, or you can buy all of them. So, for a school to be outfitted, to be resourced with 4 packs, and everyone in a grade 1 to 8 school. That's one of the things I like about these titles, is they are very, you can use them really with a lot of different grade levels. I would say past grade 8, you certainly could use them. They might look a little bit young, but if you have step 1s in high school, I do feel that there's a place for it. The other option are to buy what we call library packs, so single copies. Again, you can buy it by level and all the single copy titles, so all 96 titles for $789. That's a quick 10-minute little overview. Do you guys have any questions? Do you have any thoughts on Talk About? I'm happy to answer and think about them, if you guys want to share anything.
I have a quick question.
Yep.
So when you say level 1, level 2, level 3 on the step continuum, are we not focusing on the students' academic language at the grade level they're at to figure out where they are on that step continuum? I'm just confused by the 1, 2, and 3 when it's pertaining to reading levels, because we really work on the academic content of where a student is at in their learning journey.
So that's a good question, Diane. I don't have an answer to that. I kind of feel like you guys maybe are the better experts to answer that than I am.
I can answer that, Paul. I think on the step continua, if you look at the language descriptors, it notes that the student is using their home language and familiar language in step 1 and 2, and that the the academic vocabulary, if we look at the fine details of the reading descriptors, it notes that it's starting in simple and adapted text, which is what Paul is showing us in step 3 and above. Yeah. So yeah, overall, we're looking at academic, but students on step 1 and 2, the step describes that they're working on familiar language.
And for us, the step continuum is different a little bit between primary, junior, and high school.
Yes,
okay, that
exactly.
makes sense. Thank you.
That's a great question. So the levels I think Paul is referring to is leveled by Scholastic for leveling this series specifically. It isn't, it doesn't align exactly with STEP itself.
Right.
But
I really felt a lot of the resources are adaptable to ELDs and ESLs currently in high school. And I love the idea of having those high frequency words, the visual mapping or the way he had the tally sheet up on, which ones are barefoot, like it just continuously anchors the learning. So they're very interesting resources.
Yes, I agree. Thank you. Is there any other questions? That was a great question and very important to understand the difference between the levels and step levels.
Well, yeah, if there's no other questions, then we'll leave it at that. Yeah.
No,
if anyone ever, like, if you have any questions, we're always you can always easily reach out to us. We're all very happy to help however we can.
Wonderful. Thanks so much, Paul, for all your time. I'm just going to pause the recording here.